welcoming the Noble Lord the Minister to this House and look forward to working with him. When I started contemplating this debate, there was a phrase that just kept popping into my mind: there's always more fish in the sea. Now that's usually used, of course, by people who've heard perhaps a bit too much from their friends about their broken hearts and wishing to reassure them. But I went to look up to see if we can find the first use of this phrase, and it seems to be lost back in the mists of time. Now, as the Noble Viscount has just been outlining for us, that's because things have changed very much over centuries. Now, today perhaps the tenor of this metaphor in the age of online dating is more true than it has ever been, but the vehicle of the metaphor no longer bears the weight that it's carrying. There's a lot of focus on the state of nature on land. We've recently seen reports from NGOs. People can see for themselves what's known as Insectageddon, the fact that when you're driving along the highway at night, you no longer see an insect splattered all over your windscreen. But of course, the loss of, say, our cod is much less visible to people and much less talked about. And I think we owe a real debt to the commentator George Monbiot, who's really drawn attention to this and written about the fact that actually this goes back a very long way, further even than the Noble Viscount went. Paleolithic fishers were catching giant beasts that the medieval fishermen could not even imagine, and what the medieval fishers saw is something modern fishers can't even imagine in their dreams. We have shifting baseline syndrome, and we should never forget that. But before I get to the direct points of this debate, there's one more thing I want to say to the Noble Minister directly. It's not specifically our topic today, but it's clear from that background that we need to see many more marine reserves. We need to see many more genuine no-take zones protecting our fish stocks. But to come to the specific point of today's debate, and I want to record my debt to the Greens EFA Parliamentary Group Fisheries Advisor, Bjorn Stockhausen, who very much informed what I'm about to say, because, of course, the Green parties of the United Kingdom will continue to be part of the European Green Party, and we will continue to work very closely with them. Just as, of course, our fish stocks will continue to be European after Brexit. Fish do not carry passports. If they tuck them under their fin on one side, they'd only be able to swim in circles. So they don't stop at borders, and we are going to have to continue to work very closely with our European neighbours. And several noble lords have referred to the fact, as I referred to yesterday, that the discard ban is not simply an EU rule. This is the people's rule, fought for and won by the people. And it's up to the government to enforce this rule, to continue to reflect the will of the people after Brexit. And of course up to this Lordship's House to scrutinise what the government's doing about that, as these two reports do. Now, I think it was the Noble Lord Cameron of Dillington who said there's not much attention being paid by NGOs. Well, I think we should pay tribute to the excellent client Earth, who put out a report last October, which highlighted particularly how France, Denmark and Spain are also, like us, failing to enforce this ban. And I would ask the Minister to ensure that in ongoing talks and negotiations that we focus on doing the right thing ourselves, so we can also then push for others to do the right thing as well. This needs to be part of the ongoing negotiations. Now, I think a number of noble lords have referred to the difficulty, the challenges of being a fisher, and they need to be properly paid. We need to look at issues that also apply for our farmers and growers, about the payments, the pressures put on them by supermarkets and multinational companies. We know that much of our stocks, much of our catch is actually sold into European markets. What kind of access will they have to those markets? But also we need to think perhaps in light of the food strategy we're seeing for England coming forward quite soon, about how we might think about more sustainable, closer to home consumption of some of our catch. So I'd ask the Noble Lord, the Minister, to ensure that his work is very closely integrated with that work of the food strategy in this area and others. Now, specifically coming to a couple of points on these reports. Paragraph 49 of the EU Committee's report refers to using different types of equipment that could enable some fishers to fish more selectively. I would ask the Noble Lord the Minister what the government plans to do to help and support fishers to do that. Now, the report also covers extensively the issue of remote electronic monitoring. Now, the Noble Lady Baroness Young of Scone has already covered this point extensively, so I would like to say I want to ask all the questions that she's already asked as well. Coming to paragraph 57, the real-time notification of catches. Useful and trusted, we need to change systems and indeed, as other Noble Lords have said, cultures, so that we can reduce the choke risks for fishers. Again, I would ask the Noble Lord the Minister what plans the government has to support this happening. And finally, a small area I want to address, small in both senses of the term. Paragraph 71 refers to vessels under 10 metres not having the same ability to mitigate choke risks. Now, what is the government planning to do to support and help particularly those vessels under 10 metres, working very often in inshore waters, working locally, part of strong local economies, making a different kind of contribution, a different, I would say, positive contribution, unlike giant vessels taking huge volumes from our oceans, from our seas. What is the government planning to do to really ensure that we have strong support for those crucial small vessels?